Welcome to the S Club podcast, where we talk about real life, relationships, and real estate. I'm here with Nick Sgarlata with Bridge to Brighter, which is a local organization that's making a huge impact in the foster care system in Milwaukee. Nick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Yeah, so what is Bridge to Brighter and how did you get involved with this organization?
Sure. First, Bridge to Brighter is a nonprofit organization that focuses on youth that are aging out of foster care. So,
And what age would that be?
the ages that we're serving currently is 17 to 23. So what happens when a child is in the foster care system or the child welfare system, as they approach their 18th birthday or when their quote order is up, they age out of the foster care system. And so the services and resources that they may have had while they were in the system, they go through a transition. So there are services and resources available to youth who have aged out, but what we're trying to do is help those children or youth make a successful transition to adulthood. Because if you can imagine being 18, turning 18, not having a family or a home or any support, and if you want to say figuring out the adult world on your own, that can be difficult. So we're here to help them.
Yeah, and I heard that when kids do get to that age and they are in the foster care system, that almost creates a lot of angst and they get stressed out about it years in advance.
Absolutely. So if you think about children in the foster care system, the trauma that they may have to have endured, whether it's neglect or abuse, and then again, turning 18 should be an exciting time in a kid's life, but as you alluded to, it can be a very anxious time and unsettling time for these youth, because imagine again turning 18 and you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know where you're going to be living. So
because at that age they can no longer be in foster care and have housing.
Correct. Whether they're in a foster home or in a group home, once they turn 18 or again as their order is up, they cannot remain in that foster home or in that group home. And so, yes, they don't know where they're necessarily going to live. So what we're trying to do is get youth before they officially age out. When youth are 17 years old, they're eligible for independent living within the child welfare or foster care system. And so we're currently working with young men. We have a 8-unit apartment complex where the youth that we serve all have their own 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. And then we have some other amenities in our apartment complex. We have a gathering space. We have some fitness and exercise equipment. So trying to create a sense of home and environment for these youth the best that we can. So these youth, again, as they become eligible for independent living and essentially need a place to stay, because 1 in 5 youth when they age out are homeless. And so one of our top priorities and goals is safe and stable housing. And we feel by providing that safe and stable housing that will allow them to address their other needs, whether it's education, employment, and their mental health. So we're trying to create an environment where they can heal.
How do you identify and select who gets to be part of your program?
So we work closely with some of the child welfare agencies in southeastern Wisconsin. The 2 largest, primarily WellPoint Care Network and Children's Wisconsin. So they will typically send us a referral. And when the referral comes to us, we go through our intake process to determine whether these young men are a good fit for Bridge to Brighter, knowing that they've, have dealt with a lot of stuff and have issues that need to be addressed. We are looking for young men that are determined and want to make a better life for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And then how did you get involved with Bridge to Brighter?
So a little bit of a long story. My wife, who's a literacy consultant, and our founders are Kevin and Shelley Marion. And my wife was working with Kevin's sister. At the time, she was the principal at a school, and my wife was consulting at that school. And at the time, my wife was on a different nonprofit foster care board. And so we had a dinner at our home, and Kevin and Shelley and Kevin's sister, and then the executive director of the other nonprofit, we had them all to our home for a dinner to talk about their needs at the time. And so I met Kevin and Shelley that evening, and I just heard about what they wanted to do, and I was, truly inspired. And my wife and I, we've been foster parents for 9 years now.
Wow.
And we've adopted 2 from the foster care system. So it's a topic and a subject near and dear to our heart, and we're pretty entrenched within the foster care community. My wife teaches the partnership parenting at Children's Wisconsin. So anyway, that evening, we just had a lovely evening, but afterwards I was moved by what Kevin had to say. And so after the dinner, I just reached out to him. And over the period of the next 6 months, we talked, we exchanged emails, ideas about, my wife and I, we kind of had a list of needs that we saw within the foster care system that we felt needed to be addressed. And
what were some of those needs?
One of them was, youth aging out of foster care. Some of the other ones, just real briefly, are, some of the issues with visitation. What happens when a child is, removed from a home and they can't be placed immediately? So, I had 6 or 7 or 8 topics that, we had discussed, and Kevin was very, focused on, we need to do one and do it well. And we both kept coming back over that next 6 months to youth aging out of foster care, because it's such a need. It's a vulnerable population. It's a population that a lot of people don't even know about.
Yeah, how many kids are roughly in foster care, like in Milwaukee?
Oh, in Milwaukee, so Milwaukee County, there's about 2,000 children in the foster care system. Within the state of Wisconsin or the Milwaukee County area, about 300 age out every year. So just some national statistics, there's about 400,000 plus 420,000 kids in the foster care system. There's about 120,000 that are awaiting adoption. Within foster care, the primary goal is reunification with the family. And then after that, if that's not an option, the goal would be adoption. But for those that are neither reunited or adopted, those are the kids that age out. And roughly about 23,000 kids each year age out of the foster care system, which equates to about more than 60 kids a day nationwide.
And what do you feel like people need to understand more about the challenges for those kids when they face that aging out process?
Yeah, there are many. Yeah. So if you think about, there's so many situations and examples that I can share, but you think for those who have children and who have children around that age, 17, 18, 19 years old, you think about that time in a child's life, finishing high school or supposedly finishing high school, often maybe going to college. And you think about those kids that have the family and have the support and have the resources to go through all those things, and you think about the changes that happen in a child's life at that age and the many questions that they have, and thinking about the research that shows that a child's brain's not fully developed until age 26. And then you look at these youth that have aged out, And again, as we talked about earlier, the neglect or the abuse that they may have endured. And even
When they're in foster care,
yeah,
do they get treatment for mental health?
they do.
Okay, so there are resources available.
So there are services available for mental health services. Some are court ordered and mandated. Others, do it voluntarily. You know, again, you take children who are in the system, just in some way, shape, or form, in some capacity, being removed from a biological parent, trauma occurs. So essentially, every youth or child experiences that. And, we're supposed to, take them in and care for them. And unfortunately, for some of them, that doesn't happen. The abuse and the neglect continues, and it just is compounded through, transition, multiple stays in multiple foster homes or group homes. And so then you come to the point where they're aging out, and there's a big suitcase there and a lot for them to unpack. And what we're trying to do at Bridge to Brighter is help them with that. So like I said earlier, if we can first and foremost establish housing, stability, safe and stable housing, so they can focus on finishing their education, graduating high school, potentially going to college.
It takes away such a big load off of them for
Absolutely.
the housing.
Absolutely. And just, but everything is compounded. Like essentially all of them have, there was a recent, I think, Journal Sentinel article, 81% of children and youth in the foster care system have some type of trauma and need some type of mental health service. I mean, that's a huge number. Yeah. And so, every youth is at a different stage as to what they're willing to share and, if you want to say, deal with. So some youth come to us and they're very quiet and to themselves and reserved, and others are, more open and, I don't want to say aggressive, but willing to take the steps to maybe address the mental health issues or challenges, because that is at the root of kind of everything. Like if you're not in a good mental state, or again, go back to the housing issue, if you don't know where you're staying or where your next meal is going to come from, you're not going to care about going to school. You're not going to care about a job or, trying to maintain a job. If you're in that survival mode, it's very hard to function. And what we're trying to get them to is that living mode, so to say, where, they're doing some healing, they're addressing their trauma, finishing school, engaging in employment opportunities or employment training. A lot of them haven't had the exposure or the opportunities. I don't want to be stereotypical, but it's very common that the youth coming to us, they kind of think the only thing that they can do is maybe work at a fast food place. And just some of the opportunities that we've been able to expose and share with our youth.
And what would be some of those?
Well, we really push the trades. So we've built some partnerships with some, local organizations for them to pursue trades and construction and, potential careers in, being an electrician, being a plumber, general construction. Outside of, the trades, pushing, we've had supporters of Bridge to Brighter come in who have owned businesses or, been involved in companies, share their experiences and talk about, leadership. And it's amazing to kind of watch them and see them like they had no idea. And it's you always want things that happen faster than they are, but it's a slow process to kind of, see them process that. And like, because, if again, you think of a child, maybe in an environment that's safe and supportive, and dealing with issues. For these young men, sometimes doing more than one thing is overwhelming. So if they're, thinking about, okay, I got to finish school, I have to go to work today, what bills do I have, got to pay rent, trying to teach them all of those things.
Yeah, and I fell in love with you guys when I saw you on social media.
Well, thank you.
And one thing that I just love that you recently did with the guys was a vision board day. So when I think about these young men being in foster care, I would think, how can they even dream, or what would be even on their vision board? What were some things that they had put on there?
Well, it's wonderful these guys do have big dreams. They do have big ideas. And, we have some signs that we've made in the basement kind of community area of, think big, dream big, pursue excellence. So no matter what it is that you're doing, pursue excellence, actions speak louder than words. So trying to, build consistency and routine with these young men. But going back to the vision boards, their inspiration for what they want to do with their life. I mean, a lot of them would love to own a business. A lot of them would like to have, a big house someday, live on a lake. I mean,
they have the same dreams that we do.
I was say no different than you or me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's making it happen. And, the other thing that's just very interesting is, you can see with them, like when something good happens to them, they almost don't feel worthy of it, and trying to teach them that they are worthy of that, and that they have so much to offer. I always tell these young men that they are role models. They have stories to share, and their stories will help change lives. And because if these young men were to talk to younger kids, like within the foster care system, and to see what these young men are doing, they would be an inspiration and a role model for those younger kids. And they would look up to them, and to have that resilience and to overcome. And so
how do you teach them about that confidence, like to build that confidence and to know that they are worthy?
That's a struggle. That's a struggle, because what I was going to say, to finish that, is that feeling of self-worth is difficult. We actually just got a grant to do a course focusing on their self-worth that we're going to be doing in the new year. And unfortunately, when they come upon some of these situations where they're having some success, most people in their lives or situations that they've been through, most people give up on them. And so they're just waiting for that to happen. And
or waiting for something negative to happen.
That their ability to trust is low. So developing that trust, building that trust, and then building them being able to say that, wow, I can achieve this. Because sometimes when they see good things happen, they'll self-sabotage because they're afraid. Like, I don't deserve this, or this can't be happening to me. And so, making them show or making them feel that they are worthy. And it's through all like the little interactions in the day.
And so for them, structure is probably something that's important, but difficult. Yeah. Like they're in that survival mode. Like they just go from one thing to the next. So I have found, I learned just as much from them as I hope that they're learning from us. But like providing them structure and routine and organization is difficult. And some do better than others. Like, again, everybody has unique traits. Like some of our youth are very organized. Their apartment is always clean. Others, it's kind of like an everyday battle of we're trying to teach them the skills without overstepping our bounds. And
trying to help them, teach them those independent living and life skills that are essential to, I don't want to say be successful, but because you can define success in many different ways, but just to give them those independent living and life skills that are helpful for them. Because at some point, we want them to graduate Bridge to Brighter, and we want to cheer them on to their next chapter.
How long are they typically in your care?
So when we started Bridge to Brighter, we were looking at them being there 2 to 3 years. Just looking at what they've been through and what they need to learn. And, you think about the age that we're getting them. I mean, even now, if we get a youth like right at 17 when they're eligible for independent living, if they're there 2 to 3 years, you're looking there 19 or 20 years old.
Still young.
Still very young. And I, again, not to compare, but just to give some perspective, you take a child who, graduates high school and goes to college, take a child who goes to college and they're not sure what they want to do. And they might graduate college and are still not sure what they want to do. And so we they've been in our program 2 or 3 years and they're 19 or 20 and they still have a lot to learn. And I look at my own kids. I mean, my biological kids are 26, 23, and 18. And, they still reach out to us all the time. Mom, Dad, what do you think about this? I have a question about this. Can you help me fill out this form?
I still call my parents.
Absolutely. I mean, that job never goes away.
Yeah.
And again, we're not here to replace family. Kind of two things that are, as we've been talking about, there's many things that are difficult, but two things that are really hard is, one of our pillars is building healthy connections and relationships. And the fact that these youth are in the foster care system, have aged out in some capacity or way, shape, or form, there's probably been some unhealthy relationships there. And that's a difficult space when you're working with a youth who has a biological mother or father, that they know are associated with, and talking to them about that relationship might be unhealthy. That's a difficult space because what child does not want to be loved or cared for by a biological parent? And so, again, all these different facets that we walk with these young men, it's really complex.
Is somebody living there too with them?
No,
or they're on their own?
I always tell people, kind of compare it to these young men coming to us are in independent living. So you could take the apartment complex across the street from us, and those young men could go live there because that's the stage that they're at. I mean, they're turning 18, aging out. They need to find a place to live. Where what's kind of makes us different is we're trying to provide the resources, programming, and services to, again, help them develop those independent living and life skills and, teach and help them grow in a lot of different areas. Some of our programming focuses on finances and budgeting, so financial literacy, faith and spiritual development.
Which is so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, everybody's at a different space. We work with some organizations on mental health. We have a mental health support group that we have. We have a mentor life coach come in. And so it's great to see these young men build these bonds and these relationships with the people that have been so generously providing our programming and services.
Yeah. So when you think about your time so far at Bridge to Brighter, can you think of one success story that sticks out about one of the young men?
Well, there's a number. So I would say just a couple that really stick out. This past year, we've had several young men graduate high school. So successfully graduate high school. Yes. And then we've had 2 young men who came to us who did not finish high school. And they were able to be in some programming where they were able to receive services to finish their high school education. So they achieved their HSED, which is high school equivalency diploma. And I can pretty confidently sit here and say, if those young men were not at Bridge to Brighter, that would not have happened. I do not think these young men would have finished high school. And, to all the things that we've talked about already, that sense of self-worth, being able to, see a process through, or, see through and finish their classwork. It took a lot of hard work. And then some of the young men, one in particular, he successfully completed the Youth Build program through Milwaukee Christian Center, and just how he did that.
And what is Youth Build?
Youth Build is a program that focuses on the trades through Milwaukee Christian Center. And so they're one of the organizations that we partner with. We've had several young men go through that. Again, 2 of them completed their education or their high school diploma through there. Another one successfully completed the Youth Build program and then wants to pursue the trades. We have a number of young men that are continuing to pursue the trades. And again, we have some that are currently exploring some potential career options. So that's always exciting. But, as we've talked about kind of just in general with children this age, progress is not linear. There's bumps in the road. What we're trying to achieve is when there is a bump, that we can get them back on track sooner versus them kind of, if you want to say, going into like a spiral of not being able to function.
And do these young men have role models or mentors through your program?
Yes.
Or is that something that would be a need?
It's always a need. We'll always take more mentors. We'll always take more role models. But we have, most of our youth have a role model. So the delicate balance is, actually right now, all of our young men are at least 18 years old. So you can't force or mandate them to do anything. We want to provide the resources. We want to provide the services. And we hope that they participate in them and take advantage of them and, realize the opportunity. So most of them do have a mentor. Some of them do not. So we're always looking for mentors. And yeah, I mean, that's happened in a variety of ways. People reaching out to us, people calling and wanting to, get involved. Some of the youth did come to us with a mentor. But yeah, I mean, we're just trying to surround them with an army of people that support them.
And just that love them.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So if you were to look back, let's say a year from now, what would you envision Bridge to Brighter looking like?
In a year? Well, I mean, I have lofty goals.
Yeah.
I want to be like realistic, and we want to do it right. Like we want to help as many youth aging out of care as possible. We recognize that currently we're working with just young men, and we have one building. Right now, we're actively pursuing a second building, and we want to help more young men in that realm. We also recognize that there's a need for young women aging out of care, and that's one of our goals in our strategic plan. But recognizing that will need a whole another set of services and supports that we're probably not equipped to take on right now, but recognize that that's a need. And then I would say, again, in a year we won't be there, but expanding our services to this, the greater state of Wisconsin. So, maybe Madison or Green Bay or Eau Claire or La Crosse. And then I really this might be a little bit ambitious, but I really feel like what we're doing could be a national model, like maybe other organizations or partnering with other organizations throughout the country to help serve these young people. Then I would say, within this next year, that I'm hoping that we'll likely have several young men, quote, graduate and transition from Bridge to Brighter. So that would be a huge achievement, and nothing I want more to, cheer these young men on to their next chapter, as I said before. So, a year from now, looking back, be like, that we've had some youth graduate, that we've successfully found a second building, and that we just continue to grow and expand our services and help these youth in need.
How can the community be of a greater resource to you and help if they're interested in connecting with Bridge to Brighter? Sure.
I'd say the simplest thing is just go to bridgetobrighter.org. If you go to our website, there's, you can inquire about volunteer opportunities. We have a whole host of people, preparing meals for the youth.
And that's weekly, right, for the meals?
Yeah, okay. They're doing it weekly now, so that's wonderful. And, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities to get involved. Obviously, monetary contributions, donations are always very much appreciated. And, go to our core programming and services, and continuing to develop our resources for our young men. So, that's the simplest way, is go to our website.
And to be in this program, these young men don't have to pay anything. Is that correct?
Or
is there some type of financial contribution?
No. So again, we're teaching them to become, successful young adults. So they don't, quote, have to pay anything to come in, but their reality, good, bad, or indifferent, is they're becoming adults, and to live somewhere you need to pay rent, and if you're going to have a phone, you have to pay for your phone bill, and you have to have Wi-Fi. So when they come to us, and it's kind of like on a graduated schedule, they will be required to pay rent at some point. It's kind of, at first, if they come to us through the SIL program, their rent's covered. And then once they officially transition out, they're responsible for a little more than 50%. And then typically by the end of the program, they're 100% responsible for rent. But that's necessary. That is a necessary life skill, because some people will say, I can't believe you make them pay rent.
You have to, for them to get on their feet.
Exactly. If we don't make them pay rent, we're doing a disservice to them, as much as that might seem like that's terrible. But again, that is their reality, and we need to prepare them to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. So rent, we set them up with a We Energies utility account, so that they can build credit. So they help them. They're pretty independent with like their phone and their Wi-Fi, and then helping them budget. We have a savings match program to help them build savings. We want them to take advantage of that. Sometimes early on they don't necessarily do a good job of that, but hopefully they'll see like they can double their money, or have a good chunk of savings once they, quote, graduate Bridge to Brighter. And then we would like to help the youth. We actually put in for a grant. I don't know if we're going to get it, but to, when the youth graduate, help them with their first apartment on their own, help furnish it for them. Because the apartments that they come into, first of all, are really nice, but they're completely furnished through generous donations. So the youth come in and they have,
dressers, beds,
couch, love seat, bed, dresser, TV, fridge. The kitchen is completely, complete with kitchen accessories, the bathroom, personal hygiene items. So to your other point that you said earlier, if people want to, donate household items or personal hygiene items, we're always in need of all those things.
And all that stuff can be found on the website?
Absolutely. We actually have an Amazon wish list that's connected to the website. So, and then, people just reach out and we just arrange drop off or pickup of donations. So, it's we've been so grateful and are so appreciative of how generous the community has been.
Mm-hmm. And if any of the young men are watching today, what is one piece of advice that you would share with them, or one thing that you would like them to know?
That I love them.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I mean, I love these guys. I feel like they're my own kids sometimes. So I have to be careful sometimes to kind of set
favorites.
There's no favorites.
Sure.
I love them
plain
all,
favorites though.
But, I just have to set that boundary of work versus personal. But no, I would say the sky's the limit. You guys can do anything. They trying to make them realize they have as much potential as anybody else, and their dreams are big. Like I said earlier, wanting to own their own business or drive a nice car or live in a nice home. They can do all of that. It's making them see that they can do that and that they're worthy of that, because that's a big obstacle to overcome.
Well, Nick, thanks so much for joining us. I learned so much today about Bridge to Brighter, and I hope that people who are listening do get involved and go onto the website and either contribute financially or reach out about other ways that they can just help contribute to what you're doing. So thank you.
I thank you for having me, Sarah.